Hey there, kiddo. Didn't expect you this late. Go on, sit close to the fire. I've got some stories you won't hear anywhere else. Every week, I dig up the darkest listener submitted tales, ghost sightings, cryptid encounters, things in the sky, and things in your closet. I'm Old Dad Guy, and I don't scare easy, but maybe you will. Tuck in tight. It's story time. This one comes from Margot, a hospice nurse in South Carolina. People think the dying are the ones closest to the other side. That might be true, but sometimes it's the house itself that holds the door open. In the early 90s, I took a private nursing job for an elderly woman named Miss Ida. She lived alone in an antebellum style house off Chapel Road, tucked deep in the woods. Her family had owned the property since before the Civil War. Big columns, rotting wood, thick vines. The kind of place that makes you whisper even when you are alone. Ida was 91 and fading, but sharp. Too sharp sometimes. She'd tell me things like, "Don't leave the windows open at night. He listens better when the wind blows." I thought it was the morphine talking. Until the knocking started, that is. The first time, it was just after midnight. A light tap, tap, tap on the back door. Then again, always three knocks. I looked outside. No one was there. No wind, no animals. Ida was awake. "Don't answer it," she said. I asked, "Who is it?" She turned her head slowly. "It's the preacher. He wants in." That gave me chills, but she didn't say anything else. A few nights later, I saw him. I was dozing on the couch when I heard the screen door creak. I went to check, and there he was, standing at the edge of the porch. Tall, thin, wearing a black suit, hands clasped, no face. Or rather, too much shadow to see a face, even in the moonlight. He didn't move. I blinked, and he was gone. When I told Ida, she smiled sadly. "He's been waiting a long time. He came for my mother. Now he's come for me." I started sleeping in shifts, keeping lights on, but every night I'd hear him walking the halls. Heavy footsteps, slow, steady. Sometimes doors creaked open. Once I found all the dining chairs pulled out like someone had just left the table. Another time, I walked into the parlor and every picture on the wall was upside down. Ida was fading fast. The day before she passed, she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and whispered, "He doesn't knock for just anyone. He waits and he watches. You'll feel it when he turns to you." She died that night. Three knocks woke me just before dawn. I sat frozen in bed, too afraid to breathe. The knocks came again, this time from inside the house. I left at sunrise, never looked back. The family sold the place soon after, and it's been empty ever since. But I drive past it sometimes. It still stands, sagging, watching, and every so often, someone reports hearing footsteps inside, or seeing a man in black standing in the upper window. He's still waiting, maybe for me. Static in the corn. I was 16 the summer everything changed. My family owned a few hundred acres of corn out near Ankeny, Iowa. Hot, flat, quiet land that shimmered in the July heat. There wasn't much to do but work, sweat, and stare out into the fields for hours. I hated it. But that year, I needed the money for a truck, so I took every shift I could get: detailing, hauling irrigation, fixing fence posts, anything. And that's when I started hearing the static. It came from this beat up old transistor radio I clipped to my belt, the kind of thing my dad found in a garage sale pile. It barely worked, just AM stations and a whine of white noise. But one day, when I was out in the eastern lot, walking row after row in the heat, the static changed. It started clicking. Sharp little pulses, like Morse code, buried beneath the hiss. At first, I thought it was sunspots or bad reception. But then the clicks turned into tones, then a voice. It wasn't English, not at first, just garbled syllables, stretched and bent like someone drowning on a phone call. Then it said my name: Adam. I stopped cold, pulled the radio off my belt. The signal fizzled, then cut out completely. When I scanned the dial again, there was nothing but the usual hiss and a preacher yelling about Revelation. I laughed it off, told myself I was tired, sun drunk, but I stopped using the radio after that. The next night, my little brother Jonah came into my room around 2 a.m., holding a sketch pad. He didn't say anything, just stood there in the moonlight like a ghost. I asked him what he was doing, and he handed me the drawing. It was a spiral, dozens of concentric loops drawn in hard, dark graphite. At the center was a symbol like a triangle inside a circle, surrounded by dots. "Where'd you see this at?" I asked. He just said, "I dreamed it. They were singing it." I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Things got weirder after that. Lights in the fields, bright, silent flashes that danced above the corn without a sound. Our irrigation pipes, heavy steel ones, were found bent and twisted, like pretzels. One morning I found the dog whimpering under the porch, eyes wide, nose bleeding. And then there was the corn itself. Whole patches of it were flattened, not like a storm would do, but folded, spiraled into perfect circles, the way no wind could manage. My dad blamed teenagers with too much time and beer, but I knew better, especially after I saw the burn mark on the barn door. Same triangle and dots that Jonah drew, branded into the wood like it had been seared in. I didn't tell my parents. They wouldn't have believed me. One night, I took the old pickup out to the field, parked across the north fence line, and waited. I don't know what I expected, maybe to prove it was all in my head. Around 3 a.m., though, the sky lit up green. Not like lightning, not flash or thunder, just a slow pulse, like a wave moving across the sky. Then came the hum, low, deep, vibrating the truck doors like bass in a speaker. Then movement. Above the corn, maybe 30 feet up, hovered a disc. Not silver like in the movies. It was black, smooth, like glass mixed with stone. It didn't spin, didn't make a sound beyond the hum. It just hung there. And then I saw the lights beneath it. 3 in a triangle, glowing soft white. And from the center, a beam. Not like a flashlight, more like water made of light, pouring out without touching the ground. And something came down with it. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't human. Tall, sort of skeletal, with long limbs and skin like stretched plastic. Its head was narrow, and its eyes too big, too dark. It moved like it was floating, but its feet never touched the ground. It walked into the corn, and I swear, the corn parted for it. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I just watched as it disappeared between the rows. And then, like it knew I was watching, it turned its head, slowly, like cracking a joint, and looked straight at me. I blacked out. I woke up hours later, slumped against the wheel, morning light burning my eyes. My watch was gone. My belt buckle was fused like it had been microwaved. I had a small triangle burned into my arm. Faint, but it was there. Back home, no one noticed anything. Jonah had stopped drawing. The radio had gone missing. My parents didn't remember hearing any storm or flashes. But every now and then, I'd catch Jonah staring at the fields through the window. Not scared, like he was waiting for something. And last week, I swear to God, I heard the static again. But not on the radio. In my head. Like something tuning in, checking up. I don't work the farm anymore, but sometimes in the dead heat of summer, I'll drive back by the east field, and I'll see the corn swaying even when there's no wind. And I wonder, how many of us are just waiting to be tuned in? The Night Motel. I was on the road for work when I found the Night Motel. I'd been driving for 10 hours straight across Kansas, chasing cell towers and dodging semis. My GPS kept glitching, probably from the storm front rolling in. Lightning cracked on the horizon, and the sky had that greenish tinge that makes your gut twist. So when I saw the neon sign flicker through the rain, Night Motel, vacancy, I pulled in without thinking. The place looked like a time capsule from 1973. Brown bricks, yellow tinted windows, one soda machine with buttons that stuck. The front desk was empty, at first, until a tall, pale man stepped in from the back. He was wearing a crisp white shirt, no tie, and had this glassy stare like he was looking just behind you. "Checking in?" he asked, his voice soft and slow like it was dragging through molasses. "Yeah, one night," I said. "Storms got me beat." He nodded and handed me a key. A real brass key with big plastic tag that read Room 9. The room was fine, musty, dusty. One lamp, one bed. TV that only got static, but I didn't care. I kicked off my boots, laid down, and I closed my eyes. That should have been it. But then I woke up, wide awake, no idea why. It was pitch black, dead silent. The storm was gone, but the silence was too perfect. I checked my phone, 2:13 a.m., but I didn't remember falling asleep. I didn't remember closing the blinds. I didn't remember turning the light off. And something felt wrong. The kind of wrong you don't see but feel, like a pressure in your chest. I got up, walked to the window, and pulled the curtains back. Every room across the lot, lights off. Every one. Except room 4. A soft blue glow spilled from under the door. Not flickering like a TV, just glowing. I watched for a few seconds, then the glow vanished. Just gone, like someone flipped a switch. I backed away from the window. Then I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. I froze. Waited. Nothing. Then 3 more taps. Not from the door, from the mirror. I turned slowly. The bathroom mirror was fogged, like someone had just taken a hot shower. But I hadn't used it, hadn't even opened the door. I stepped forward, heart pounding, and saw something written in the condensation. You left twice. Then the light blinked, just once. When it came back, the mirror was clean, dry, no fog, no message. And my reflection was delayed, half a second off, like a video feed was catching up. I backed out of the room, key in hand, barefoot, heart racing. The hallway outside was empty. The desk was empty. But on the counter, where the clerk had been earlier, sat a security monitor. Black and white, 12 screens, 12 rooms. 11 of them showed people sleeping. But room 4, static. And room 9, my room, was empty. I ran to the door, but the knob was gone. Just a blank slab of wood. Then I heard it, soft humming behind me, mechanical, rising in pitch. I turned, and the hallway wasn't a hallway anymore. It was a tunnel, steel, cold, curved, and filled with shadows. Figures approached, tall, smooth-skinned, limbs too long, heads too thin. Their eyes, black, like oil, and in their hands, light. Not tools, not weapons, instruments. I tried to scream. I couldn't. I felt them in my head, peeling. I woke up in my car, engine running, seatbelt on, parked in the motel lot under the morning sun. The motel was gone, just an empty lot and cracked concrete. But the key to room 9 was still in my coat pocket, and my phone said it was 2 days later. I don't drive at night anymore. I don't trust motels, and I keep the mirror in my house covered, because every once in a while, I still see the glow. This next one comes from Angela, a retired tour guide from Florida. You never forget the first time a ghost speaks your name. I worked at the St. Augustine Lighthouse for 9 years. I started out part-time, giving history tours and helping run the little gift shop. Tourists love the place. It's picturesque, sunny, full of charm. But once the sun goes down, the lighthouse becomes something else entirely. I'd heard the stories before I started. Everybody in town had. The 3 little girls who died when the cart they were playing in broke loose and plunged into the water. The lighthouse keeper who fell from the tower. Shadows, footsteps, voices, all the usual ghost tour fodder. But I didn't believe any of it until I stayed late one stormy night to close alone. It was hurricane season, and a storm was rolling in fast. We closed the grounds early, sent everyone home, but I stayed behind to double-check the tower doors and lock the upstairs archives. I remember standing in the main lobby, the wind howling, rain tapping against the old glass. That's when I heard some giggling. Children upstairs. I froze. I knew the building was empty, but the laughter came again. clearer this time. 3 distinct voices, like little girls playing some sort of game. I called out, "Hello? The museum is closed." No answer, just more laughter. And then the sound of feet running up the spiral staircase. I grabbed my flashlight and I followed. The storm made the stairs slick, the metal cold beneath my palms. Every few steps, I hear them just ahead, giggling, whispering, then silence. When I reached the top, the observation deck was empty. The wind was fierce, rattling the panes. My flashlight flickered once and then died completely. That's when I heard it. My name. Angela. Soft, sort of sing-song, like a child trying to get your attention. I spun around. No one. "Angela, come play with us." The voice came from behind me, but every time I turned, there was nothing. Just empty air and the sound of the storm outside. And then I felt it. A small, cold hand slipping into mine. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but it caught in my throat. The hand was light, weightless almost, but definitely there. Fingers curling around mine. I whispered, "Who are you?" And the wind answered, or at least I thought it did. Words I couldn't make out. Maybe crying, maybe giggling. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. I ran. I didn't even bother locking up. I ran all the way to my car, and I sat there, soaked and shaking. I didn't tell anyone for weeks, but that wasn't the last time. Over the years, other guides had similar experiences. One man swore he saw 3 wet footprints on the top stair. A woman fainted after hearing her dead daughter's voice in the keeper's bedroom. Some guests said they felt tugging on their coats, like someone too short to reach their pockets. But always, it's 3 girls. Laughing, playing, waiting. Do I still go back? Sometimes. During the day. But I'll never go up that tower alone again. Not after what I heard. Not after that small, cold hand reached for mine in the dark. This comes from Ramon, a retired tow truck driver in Moapa Valley, Nevada. I used to work the late shift for a tow company in Moapa Valley. Long, empty stretches of desert road. Lots of overheated engines and folks running out of gas between nowhere and nothing. The worst spot was the old bridge near the abandoned road to Lake Mead. Everyone called it the Dead Drop. It was a narrow span, concrete and rusted railings, barely wide enough for 2 cars. The story was, years ago, a couple drove off the side during a storm. The car was never found. Some say it's still buried in the silt at the bottom. But that's not the part that made people scared to cross it after midnight. It started with a call on a Friday night, late August. A woman's voice said her car had stalled on the bridge and she was afraid to stay in it. I asked why. She just said, "It's back." When I pulled up, her car was empty. Lights on, engine off, driver's door open. No sign of her. I checked around, called it in, looked under the bridge. Nothing. But then I heard it. A scraping sound. Like metal on concrete. Slow. Rhythmic. I leaned over the railing with my flashlight and saw movement under the bridge. Not a person, not an animal either. Something crawling. Its limbs were too long, and it moved wrong, jerky, like a puppet on bad strings, pale, hairless. It looked up at me, and I swear, its mouth opened sideways, rows of teeth. I stepped back fast, almost fell. By the time backup came, there was no trace, not of the woman, not of the thing. That wasn't the only time. Over the next year, 4 more calls came in, all near the bridge, all vanished drivers. Every single time, the car doors were open, headlights still on. I started refusing calls to go to that spot. Got called a coward. Didn't care. One night, a younger driver, Jake, took a call out there. He never came back. They found the truck idling on the bridge. Door open, no Jake. They sent divers into the water, nothing. Some locals say it's not a ghost, but a thing. Something ancient that sleeps beneath the desert. Others say the couple that crashed were cursed, and the bridge is their tomb. One old timer told me, it don't matter what it is, just don't look at it too long, or it remembers you. Sometimes I dream of it, that mouth, the sound it made crawling up the concrete. I don't go near that road anymore. None of us do. And if your car breaks down near the dead drop, leave it. Walk the other way. Don't look back. Definitely don't look down. This next story comes from Eric, a former farmhand in Iowa, titled The Man in the Cornfield. Some things you can only see out of the corner of your eye. I spent a summer working on a farm outside of Belle Plaine, Iowa. I was 20, broke, and happy to have any job that paid cash. The family that owned the place, the Hanleys, were good people. Quiet, Lutheran, strict. They had one rule: don't go near the backfield after dark. I asked why, thinking it was a joke or a superstition. Mr. Hanley just said, the rows don't always stay empty after sundown. And then he walked away. At first, I didn't think much of it. Corn grows tall, shadows play tricks. I figured they were just being superstitious. But the backfield did feel strange. The air got stiller. The wind would skip it entirely. Even the insects seemed quieter. One night in late July, I was finishing up some repairs on a shed near the edge of the field. The sun had dipped, but I figured I had another 20 minutes of light. I was hammering in the last nail when I heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps on dry corn stalks. I turned, expecting Mr. Hanley or maybe one of the boys, but no one was there. Just the corn, tall, still. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. A figure, tall, thin, wearing a hat. Standing between the rows, half hidden, too far to see clearly, but close enough. I should have heard more if he moved. I blinked. Gone. I stared into that space where he'd been, waiting for some logical explanation. My heart thudded a little faster, but I forced myself to finish up and head back. When I got to the house, Mrs. Hanley was waiting on the porch. She didn't smile. She didn't even ask how the shed went. She just said, he watched you tonight, didn't he? I didn't know what to say. Over the next few weeks, it got worse. Tools went missing. I'd find them placed at the edge of the field the next day, neatly arranged. Once I found my hammer standing upright in the dirt. perfectly balanced. At night, I'd wake up to tapping on the window, but my room was on the second floor. Then one night, I couldn't sleep. I walked to the kitchen for water and saw something moving behind the barn. Not in the barn, behind it. Tall and still, like a scarecrow that had taken a step. I froze. The motion light clicked on, nothing there. But when I turned around, the front door was wide open. The last straw came in August. I was checking the irrigation lines before a storm. The sky was that strange green gray that only comes before Midwest thunderstorms. I was by the edge of the back field when I heard the voice. It was whispering my name, not shouting, not angry, just soft, slow, steady. Eric. Eric. I turned, and there he was, 10 feet away. He didn't have a face. Not in the way we think, just smooth skin where eyes and a mouth should have been. The hat was wide brimmed, old fashioned. He raised one hand, long fingers, dirty nails, and pointed at me. And I ran. I left that night. Didn't even collect my last paycheck. Mr. Hanley never called, never asked me to come back. I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, heat stroke, imagination, but I know what I saw, and I've heard others since. Online forums, message boards, they describe the exact same man in cornfields across the Midwest. Always faceless, always just watching. They say the corn remembers everything that's buried beneath it. And some things grow back that were never supposed to. The humming sky. They say the northern lights are beautiful. They were wrong. I used to live in a town called Kings Hollow, population just under 400, tucked into a valley in Alaska. Snowed in most of the year. The kind of place where silence isn't peaceful, it's oppressive. That winter, something changed. It started with the power. We were hit with a solar storm, one of the strongest in recorded history. Big enough to knock out satellites, big enough to make the sky dance green and purple like it was alive. Then we lost connection. No internet, no phone, no radio. Even battery-powered devices just died. We chalked it up to the storm, but then the sky started humming. It was low at first, a vibration you felt in your spine more than you heard. Then it grew higher, keening like metal under strain. And it didn't stop. Animals started acting strange. Birds flew in circles. Dogs whined and scratched at doors. Fish in the river just floated, belly up. We didn't know it then, but people were starting to go missing. First it was Charlie, the radio guy. Then Miss Geller, the school nurse. Then a group of snowmobilers heading to the ridge. Their tracks just stopped mid-snow, like they vanished in place. Some of us gathered at the town hall, built a fire, tried to make sense of things, but none of us wanted to say what we were really thinking. Then Peter, the old miner, told us the story about someone buried beneath the ice, someone older than the town, something not human. He said miners, decades ago, dug too deep near Ridge Point and found a chamber, solid metal, black as obsidian, humming like a live wire. They sealed it, never went back, until now. I didn't believe him. until the dreams started. I saw shapes, not faces, geometries, shifting lines and spirals etched in fire. A voice that wasn't a voice, just understanding, cold, unfeeling. I woke up with a nosebleed. I wasn't the only one. We hiked out to Ridge Point, 12 of us. Only 6 came back. The rest? Gone. No trace, no sound. Just a circle burned into the snow. Perfectly round, still warm to the touch. At the center, a humming black panel the size of a door. It pulsed when you got close, and when I touched it, time stopped. I saw space, planets, machines older than Earth, cities floating in silence. I saw us, humans, like ants scurrying on a rock under a microscope. And I saw what was coming, a return, a walking. The next day, the sky split. Not a meteor, not lightning. A crack, black as void, opened across the aurora. Something moved inside it, watching. Then the hum stopped, and we were alone again. Except now, sometimes, late at night, the stars don't look the same. They feel aligned. The Hollow at Blackbriar Creek. In the forgotten stretch of woods between Lisbon and Elkton, there's a sunken trail known only by the oldest locals, if they're willing to talk about it. They call it Blackbriar Hollow. No one under 50 dares speak the name unless they're trying to scare someone, and even then, it's spoken softly, like something might be listening. In 1973, a small hunting party went missing there. In 1996, a camper was found wandering the road barefoot and burned, muttering about women in the trees. And in 2012, the state quietly rerouted a stretch of highway to curve away from the forest, citing natural erosion concerns. But people talk. They say a coven of witches once lived in those woods. Not the kind with cauldrons and broomsticks, real witches. Women who lived outside the law, outside the church, outside time. Midwives, herbalists, maybe murderers. Some say they were hunted down in the early 1800s, burned alive in a great pit lined with pine branches and salt. Others say they never left. Jenna Mallory didn't believe in witches. She believed in urban legends, oral histories, and filming creepy places for content. She ran a YouTube channel called Cryptohio and was slowly gaining traction for exploring forgotten corners of the Buckeye State. When she found a reference to the Briar Witches in a dusty Lisbon library archive, she knew she had her next project. She brought her camera, 2 battery packs, a field mic, and her childhood friend Max, a skeptic who once called Bigfoot a hairy meth head in a ghillie suit. Jenna had read the lore, found the coordinates, and cross-referenced old survey maps that showed the old path into Blackbriar Hollow. They parked the Jeep off a disused county road and stepped into the woods at 9:42 a.m. The deeper they walked, the quieter it became. No birdsong, no insects, even their footfalls seemed muffled. The trees grew in tight, unnaturally twisted spirals. Thorn covered vines snaked through the branches above, forming shapes like nooses and runes. Jenna recorded everything her commentary, the odd symbols carved into the bark, the weathered stone with what looked like a handprint scorched into it. At 1:17 p.m., they found the pit. It was overgrown, but unmistakable. A shallow basin, maybe 20 feet wide, blackened around the rim. At its center stood a tall, split tree, barren, claw like. Max scoffed. So, a fire pit and a dead tree? I'm terrified. Jenna wasn't smiling. There were bones scattered along the edges. Goat, maybe. Or deer. But some looked wrong. Longer. More like human. She zoomed in on one with her lens. That's a femur. Too long for an animal. Then the wind picked up. Except there was no wind. The branches began to creak and sway above them. But the leaves didn't move. A low moan echoed through the trees. Not wind, a voice. Turn back. Max stepped back, shaking his head. I'm not loving this. Keep rolling, Jenna said. The witches. They didn't see the figures at first, only the shift in the shadows. The trees seemed to thicken. The light dimmed, though it wasn't even 2 p.m. Then Max whispered, Behind you. Jenna turned. 3 women stood just beyond the pit's edge. They wore cloaks of woven bark and bone, their hair tangled with thorns. Their faces were ageless, pale, long, eyes too wide, like dolls left in the attic too long. The tallest stepped forward. Her voice sounded like a crunch of dry leaves. You've come to film, to forget. Jenna tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. You walk the path of the hunter, said the second. So hunted you shall be. Max pulled Jenna back. Let's go. Now. They ran. The forest changed. No matter how far they ran, the pit was always near. They could break through the brush, see sunlight, feel hope, and find themselves again standing at the edge of the fire-scarred hollow. Their GPS spun in place. The compass on Jenna's phone went wild. Max screamed at the sky. We're stuck in a loop. This is a trick. Jenna collapsed against a tree. It's them. They're keeping us here. The wind laughed. A vine slithered down, brushing Max's shoulder. He tore it away. Too late. Thorns embedded in his arm and began to burrow. He fell to his knees, retching, his veins darkening. His voice turned hoarse. Run! But Jenna couldn't leave him. She lifted the camera, whispering, If anyone sees this, don't come here. Don't follow the path. Don't look for the witches. She turned to face the shadows. The witches circled. The dead tree at the center of the pit pulsed, its bark bleeding. One of the women stepped forward. You may leave if you give what you took. Jenna dropped the camera. The witch tilted her head. Not enough. Jenna screamed. Take me. Let him go. The witches smiled, and the forest swallowed her whole. The upload. 3 months later, a hiker found the camera lodged in a tree stump 2 miles from the hollow. Authorities said it was a hoax, a stunt, but the footage went viral. The last frame shows Jenna walking into the pit, eyes blank, mouth whispering in a language no one could identify. On forums, people analyzed the symbols, traced the tree's silhouette, slowly audio. Some swear if you play it backward, you hear a voice say, "She's one of them now." Max was never found, and Blackbriar Hollow, it's still there, waiting. The Woman Under the Floorboards. This happened back in 2006, after my divorce. I needed a fresh start, so I moved to a rural Ohio town and bought a fixer-upper for cheap. Way too cheap, in hindsight. It was a two-bedroom house on the edge of town, surrounded by trees and silence. The kind of place you either go to write a novel or lose your damn mind. From the start, it felt wrong. The air was heavy inside, like the house hadn't breathed in years. My realtor told me it had been vacant for almost a decade. That should have been a red flag, but I was too tired and broke to care. I spent the first night sleeping on the floor with a camping mat and my dog, Oliver. He barked a few times at nothing in particular, but eventually settled. I remember thinking it was probably mice in the walls. But the sound wasn't in the walls, it was under the floor. Scratching. Slow. Rhythmic. Like fingers raking along the underside of the boards. I got up, turned on the lights, stomped the floor. Nothing. Dead silent. I told myself it was just my imagination and went back to sleep. The next night, though, it got worse. Whispers. They came after midnight, faint and fragmented, like someone muttering just beneath the floorboards. I couldn't make out the words, just the tone, urgent and wet, like someone speaking through a mouthful of dirt. Oliver growled the whole time. He refused to walk into the living room anymore. After a week of this, I snapped. I pulled up the floorboards in the living room with a crowbar. Nothing, just dirt, old insulation, and the faint scent of rot. I dug a little, thinking maybe a raccoon or a possum had died under there. That's when I found the finger. It was small, blackened, dried like jerky, but human. I fell back, hit my head on the edge of the couch frame. I called the cops. They came, searched the crawl space, brought in dogs. They found nothing. Not even the finger. They looked at me like I was crazy. One of them patted me on the shoulder and suggested I get some rest. That night, the whispers returned. But this time, it said my name. Jared. Jared. Let me out. It came from directly beneath me. I froze. I couldn't even scream. The air turned ice cold. The floorboards bulged upward like something was pushing from underneath. Then came the knocking. 3 slow knocks beneath where I sat. I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of my bedroom with a light on and bat in my hand. Oliver wouldn't come inside anymore. He just sat on the porch and whined. I called in a local contractor the next morning, told him I needed a full foundation inspection. I didn't care about the cost. He went under the house and was down there for maybe 10 minutes before he came up, white as a sheet. Said he wouldn't go back under. There's something under there, man, he said. It's not right. He wouldn't elaborate. That night, I went under myself. I waited until 3 a.m. and crawled under the house with a flashlight and a GoPro duct taped to my head. I know how that sounds, but I needed proof. I needed to see it. The crawl space was tight, barely 3 feet high, full of cobwebs and damp earth. I scanned the flashlight slowly, listening. Then I saw her. A woman, caked in dirt. Fingernails worn to the bone, skin tight to the point of tearing. She was smiling at me, not moving, just smiling. Her eyes were open wide, and her mouth twitched slightly, like she wanted to speak. She didn't blink. I froze. Couldn't even move to run. She didn't move either. She just existed like a shadow that had finally taken shape. I blinked once, and she was gone. Just a flat patch of dirt where she had been. I scrambled out like hell, ripped the GoPro from my head, and reviewed the footage immediately. It was all there, me crawling, muttering to myself, shining the flashlight around. But there was no woman. Only one thing that didn't match. Toward the end of the clip, the camera panned by itself. I didn't turn my head. I know I didn't. It turned slowly toward the spot she had been, then cut to black. I moved out 2 days later, left most of my stuff behind. The house eventually sold, but I drive by sometimes, just to see. They redid the foundation, poured concrete over the crawl space, installed new floors. But every time I pass it, I swear I see someone peeking out through the fence slats beneath the porch. And sometimes, in the dead silence between songs on the radio, I still hear it. Jared, let me out. The night I died in Appalachia. You ever have a moment where you should have turned around and gone home? That's how I felt the second the trailhead disappeared behind me. It was like the forest swallowed it whole. 1 second, I was on a clear path in the Appalachian wilderness. The next, I was somewhere else. I've hiked all my life. I'm no idiot when it comes to survival or trail maps. I was following a well-marked loop near Elkmont, Tennessee, not far from an old abandoned town swallowed up by the woods. It was one of those foggy October mornings, cool enough to sear breath. I packed light, water, snacks, compass, GPS, but I didn't expect to need it much. I was only going for a few hours. Around noon, things started to feel off. The birds stopped. The leaves stopped falling. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, like the forest was holding its breath. My GPS went haywire, spinning like I was in the Bermuda Triangle. That's when I noticed the smell. Like something dead. Old. Rotten. Not animal dead. Wet earth and something sweet. Like spoiled fruit and turned milk. I thought maybe a deer had died nearby, but it wasn't that. It was everywhere. Then I saw the buildings. Not ruins, not cabins. Full-on, upright wooden homes like something from the early 1900s. Weather-worn, but intact. Windows staring like eyes. I should have turned back, but something about the town made me curious. I thought maybe I'd stumbled on a forgotten settlement, One of those places you read about that just vanished off the map. I stepped into the clearing. Everything got quiet. Still, there was a small general store, a chapel with its door half open, a schoolhouse, a sign nailed to a post read, "Welcome to White Hollow, established 1881." Except that name doesn't exist on any map. I've looked. I still look sometimes. The strangest part, I didn't see anyone, but I felt watched. The hairs on my arms rose like static. I remember stepping into the chapel to look around. Inside, it was spotless. No dust, no cobwebs, like it had been used just this morning. Bibles still open on the pews, a black robe draped neatly over the altar. When I turned to leave, I heard the door creak shut just behind me. I tried to laugh it off, but it wasn't the wind. There were footsteps on the floorboards above me. I bolted. I ran out of that chapel, heart pounding, didn't stop until I hit the center of town again. That's when I saw them. People, dozens, just standing there, watching me. Silent men, women, even children, dressed in black clothes like something out of a funeral procession. Their eyes were empty, not glowing, not red, just blank, like they were looking through me. A woman stepped forward. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. She raised a hand, and suddenly the rest of them smiled. All at once. That's when I blacked out. I don't know how long I was out. When I came to, I was lying next to my car at the trailhead, my pack still on my back. My boots were caked in mud and moss. I checked my phone. No signal. But the time read 4:17 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise. I should have gone home. I tried to, but something wasn't right. Everything was dull. My vision felt gray. I got in my car and looked in the rearview mirror, and my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't my face. It looked like me, but wrong. Pale, eyes hollow, a black smear at the corners of my mouth, like I'd been eating ash. Since then, I don't dream. I can't eat much anymore. And sometimes, when I pass by mirrors in low light, I catch a glimpse of that same blank smile from the people in the White Hollow. They didn't kill me in that town. They took something else. Sometimes I think they left something inside me, and I don't know how long I've got before it takes over completely. The Baby Monitor Channel. When you're a new parent, sleep becomes currency. You trade it for anything: sanity, silence, 10 minutes of peace. That's why when my husband and I bought a fancy new baby monitor with two-way audio and Wi-Fi syncing, I was beyond grateful. But I wish we'd never plugged it in. Our daughter, Clara, was 3 months old when the weirdness started. At first, it was subtle. We'd hear soft noises from the monitor, cooing, rustling, but when we'd check the crib, she'd be asleep and perfectly still. The model we bought had a feature that lets you scan nearby frequencies to pick up other monitors. I didn't think much of it. Our neighbor across the street had a baby too, so we assumed we were getting some crossfeed. At around 2:40 a.m. one night, I was half asleep on the couch while my husband worked late. The monitor buzzed and switched channels by itself. That's when I heard it. A voice, Not Clara's, not a baby at all. It sounded like a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. A girl. She was whispering something. I don't like the new baby. Then a pause. Can I have her name? I bolted up, heart hammering. I switched back to our main feed. Clara was still asleep, peaceful. I told myself it was interference. Just interference. But every night, the monitor would shift to that same strange feed at exactly 2:40 a.m. and the voice became more demanding. She took my room. Why won't she look at me? Tell her to open her eyes. We stopped using the monitor, put it in a drawer, but it kept turning on, even when unplugged. My husband thought I was losing it until it happened to him. He was home alone with Clara when I ran errands. He called me in a panic, said he heard the voice again. This time it said, Daddy, help me get out of the wall. That night, we tore the nursery apart, removed the cribs, bookshelves, even the drywall. Behind one of the panels, we found old wallpaper, hand-drawn flowers and clouds stained with age. Beneath that, something worse. Carved into the wood slats and what looked like child's handwriting was a name, Lucy, and dozens of tally marks. We called the landlord. He was quiet for a long time, then admitted something. Back in the 90s, a tenant's daughter went missing in that unit. They thought she ran away, but the mom insisted Lucy had a hiding spot in the walls. No one ever found her. We moved Clara's crib to our room that night, threw the monitor in the trash outside. But the next morning, it was back, sitting on her dresser. Still on, still tuned to Channel 4. That night, we heard the voice again. Closer this time. Right outside of our bedroom door. I can be your daughter too. We moved out the next day. A month later, I got a call from the new tenant. I don't know how she got my number. Her voice shook. She said, Your baby didn't say goodbye. Then the line went dead. We never found out who she was. Now, every night at 2:40, Clara cries in her sleep. No monitor, no tech, just crying. And sometimes, between the cries, I swear, I hear someone whisper, I still want her name. Don't feed the thing in the shed. My grandfather used to say, if something's locked up, it's locked for a reason. Don't go snooping where you weren't invited. When I was a kid, I didn't understand what he meant. But now I think about that shed almost every single day. He lived on a farm outside Bellefontaine, Ohio. Real remote. No neighbors for miles, just cornfields and foggy mornings. The farmhouse was old and creaky, the kind of place with slanted floors, ticking clocks, and the permanent smell of wood smoke and old paper. But behind the house, maybe 50 yards into the tree line, there was a shed. We weren't allowed near it. Ever. It was small, maybe the size of a one-car garage. Rusty tin roof, dark red wood sides, padlocked 3 times over. I remember asking once what was in there, and my grandpa got real quiet. He stared at the shed through the window for a long time before he said, "We feed it once a week. That's all you need to know." Feed it? Like it was alive. I thought he was just trying to scare me, old man stories. But every night, just before sunset, he'd go out there with a sack wrapped in burlap. He'd disappear inside for 10 minutes, then come back out, pale and silent. He'd burn the sack in the fire pit behind the house without a word. One time, when I was 12, I peeked inside the sack while he was grabbing something from the kitchen. It was full of raw meat. I mean, fresh, red, and wet. It stank. Not like store bought beef, more like organ meat. Liver, maybe. But there was something off about it. Too dark, too stringy. I dropped the sack and backed away before he came in. That night, he asked if I touched it. I lied and said no. He looked at me long and hard and said, "If you lie to it, it won't stop at the shed." That was the last time I visited that summer. Years passed. Grandpa died in 2017. I inherited the property. Part of me thought he'd just lost his mind. I even laughed with my brother about it, the shed monster, as we cleaned the place out. But when we got to the shed, the locks were still on it, newer than the ones I remembered. Someone had been maintaining it. There was a note nailed to the door. "Don't feed it after midnight. Don't let it see your face. Never stop feeding it." I should have burned the damn thing to the ground, but I didn't. Curiosity, guilt, stubbornness. Who knows? Maybe I just wanted to know. That Friday, I followed the routine. I filled a burlap sack with butcher meat from town and brought it out just before sunset. The key to the locks was in a box with Grandpa's name carved in it. The inside of the shed smelled like rotting mulch and copper. It was pitch black, even with a lantern. The air was wrong, heavy, like being underwater. There was a hole in the ground in the back corner, perfectly round, maybe 2 feet wide. No bottom that I could see, but something moved in there. I didn't see it, just heard it, breathing. Deep, rattling breaths like wind through a throat full of sand. I dropped the sack and backed out, heart thudding. Just as I was closing the door, something inside whispered, "Thank you," in my voice. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow looked like something crawling. Every creak sounded like a footstep. But I kept feeding it every Friday, and it kept saying, "Thank you." But one week, I forgot. I had COVID. I was down hard. High fever, couldn't move. Friday came and went. Saturday night, I heard something tap on the window. 3 slow taps, like fingernails on glass. I pulled the curtain back and nearly screamed. There was me, staring in. A perfect copy. Same clothes, same hair, even the same scar on my eyebrow. But the eyes were wrong. Black, like pits in a rotten pumpkin. It grinned and said, "You forgot." Then it walked off into the woods. I fed it double the next night, left offerings every day for a week. But now the rules have changed. It doesn't just wait in the shed anymore. I see it in my dreams. I see it standing at the edge of the woods when I take the trash out. It mimics my voice when I talk on the phone. I heard it humming in the shower last week while I was downstairs. I can't move. I can't leave the house. The thing knows me too well now. And last night, the locks were off the shed. The door was open. I didn't go check because I heard my own voice whispering from the basement this time. It's your turn. Thanks for listening to Old Dad Guy. Spooky stories for sleep and things that don't let you. If you survived the night, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the fear. New chills drop every week, right here in the dark.